Hey, so today you'll learn exactly what enrichment is from start to finish, not in a nerdy, overcomplicated way, but in a way that makes you a ton of money and turns raw data on the internet into cold, hard cash. And as always, the goal of this video is to give you guys value in terms of how I think about enrichment, how I do it, why it matters, and some of the techniques and hacks that I use so you guys can get up and running yourselves and develop a powerful money-making skill set. And at the end, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a enrichment game where I'll try to enrich a few random contacts. That way you see it live, not just in theory. So let's do it. First of all, what is enrichment, Saad? Well, it's just a fancy way to say add in more information to a lead after we've collected basic data, like for example, name, company name, or like domain name, okay? Domain websites. So enrichment basically just adds extra details such as their email address, phone number, etc. Okay? Now you might be thinking, Saad, why are we doing this? Why are we going through the enrichment process? Why do we enrich contacts? Why do we enrich leads? Well, the whole purpose of finding someone else's contact details is to not just chat with them. Well, it's because they have the possibility to change your entire life, okay? Because when you get the contact details of someone, let's say it's a business owner or like someone that you can provide value to and they can pay you money, because I always say you are one sales campaign away from changing your whole life. I mean, it changed my life and it changed the life of hundreds of people that I know. And that's the whole purpose of me making these videos and providing value to you guys, is because I can transcend that knowledge and hopefully that would awaken the genius in you, right? So you can also change your life and also kind of like develop skill sets that will make you irreplaceable for years, right? So that's the whole point. So like I said, the whole point of finding someone else's contact details is because you get access to them, right? You are in the right room. And like I always say, if you are in the right room and with the right people, you will always be rich and you will never be broke, right? Because we live in a day and age right now that it's so easy to get access to the right people at the right time. And it's kind of like it just falls down the idea of leverage that Naval says. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy's called Naval. He talks about this idea of leverage. And what is leverage? Is the ability to have access to certain ways that allow you to achieve exponential success without you doing so much work. This is called leverage. So when you reach out to the right people, you are in the right room, well, obviously you're going to have connections, you're going to know the right people, because it's not about just what you know, but who you know, right? So this is the main idea of like enrichment and like finding contact details of people, right? So always keep in mind, when you get in the right room, in the right time, with the right people, you will never be broke. Okay, so now that you understood what enrichment is basically just adding more information to a lead, okay? Why we do it, right? Because it allows us to get access to people that could change our life, where we can exchange value, that could pay us thousands of dollars for our services, right? So now let's just get a little bit technical, okay? So in terms of the enrichment, you always want to start with one thing, which is a domain name. So domain, which has like www, right? So if you have just one domain name, that's all you need to do everything. You can find the contact details, you can find the first name, last name, job titles, company descriptions. You can write an extremely personalized outreach copy. And I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do this like at the end as like an exercise, just like I said. But first, let's talk about why you only need one domain. Well, from one domain, you can essentially get the email of the person. You can get their full name. You can get, for example, their headlines, what they do essentially, like their job titles. So titles. You can, from this, essentially draft or like generate a one-on-one. This is what I like to call a one-on-one copy that doesn't feel like a pitch. It doesn't feel like you're not like a salesperson, just providing value. And once you just provide value, you just get paid instantly. So now let's talk about how to enrich from a domain, okay? Like I said, you always want to start from having just a domain name or like also a company name. So if you only have like just the company name or like the domain, you can find everything, okay? And I'm going to show you guys how we can do it. But let's explain first Okay, let's say you have now a domain. For example, you have www.domain.com. Okay, you have this domain right now. How do we go from just having a domain name to having like an enriched lead? And not just an enriched lead, but the right person. Because a lot of people that do outreach or want to get access to people that can sell services to, they just talk to anyone, right? But it's a mistake. And let me explain. So for example, let's say you want to sell sales systems, the same services that I show you guys in this channel. Well, you're not just gonna reach out to any person, right? Or like talk to any person or like find the contact details of any person. Well, it depends, right? It depends. Reason why is because thinking in first principles, since we're selling sales systems and sales systems are systems that automate lead gen, well, thinking about it, who handles lead gen or sales in a company? Well, it's most likely going to be a VP of sales, VP of sales, or like some sort of like sales manager, okay? Or like head of sales. Now, let's say you are selling, for example, CRM integrations, maybe you are selling some sort of like automation stuff. Do not recommend you sell it off the bat. You can sell it after you sell them a sales system because a sales system is going to allow them to kind of like get more ideal buyers because like a sales system just automates their entire lead gen, connects them with their ideal client, right? So you want to like come up with an offer that gets you in the door quickly, which always going to be an offer that increases their top of funnel. What is a top of funnel? Well, it's just a fancy way to explain where your leads come from or like where do you get your clients. So this is like a funnel. It comes from here. So once you like give them a solution that is predictable, reliable, well, now you can upsell them to like other stuff like automation, CRM integration, which is exactly what I do. So like I first show them that they can grow, and then I show them how they can optimize operations because automation is like the real juice of automation is like optimizing operations, saving time, all this sort of stuff. But when you use it for lead gen and automating lead gen, well, it becomes a no-brainer and it becomes like kind of like your first offer in the door. You get in the door and then essentially now you're handling their growth, right? And you're kind of like a growth partner, not just someone who builds them like systems that save them time. Okay. So that's like the main idea behind it or behind the thinking. Okay. So let's say, for example, I'm going to give you an example so I can kind of like just give you like a couple job titles because like I said, when you sell systems, you want to go for VP of sales, sales manager, head of sales, kind of like all these sales personas. It's called a persona, which is kind of like a job title that handles sales within a company. Okay. Now, you can also go for founders here, but just a heads up, founders, you can also go for them or talk to them, but you need to keep in mind that it's only within like small companies or like small businesses, right? Because at that point, like the founder or like the owner is still wearing multiple hats, right? They are the salesperson. They are kind of like the person who does delivery, etc. Right? So just keep that in mind. But in like most of the time, like I would say 85% of the time, 90% of the time, these job titles are going to be like exactly who you want to talk to or get access to, right? Now, let's say you're selling some sort of like automation, okay? This is like a big mistake that I see most people make is that like they hear all this stuff from like gurus and they say just do outreach, and they can't sell anything because you're not reaching out to the right person within a company or like a business owner. You're just casting a wide net, and then that rarely works. So for example, you're selling automation. Well, thinking about it in first principle, since automation optimizes ops and operations, etc., and allows us to save time, well, who cares about saving time within a company? Well, it's most likely going to be someone who handles operations. So it's going to be head of operations. See? Head of ops. Maybe a CTO, because they are more technical. Maybe operations manager. Right? So it's not the sales manager or like the VP of sales. Well, it's someone who handles exactly what you're solving or what your automation solves. Right? So whatever you are selling, you need to reach out to the right people, right? Within a company or like in whatever entity, right? Now, let's talk about, let's say, for example, I'm trying to like think about all the possibilities. Maybe you are watching this and you just want to kind of like learn about this sort of stuff to develop skills. Because like I said, these skills will pay you dividends years and years from now. And it's called a GTM, by the way. This is called a GTM. GTM role meaning. So a GTM, basically, they get paid a lot of money a year. So go-to marketing strategy, which is about launching a product or service. Yeah, oversees the entire strategy, focus on like operation or recruiting. So essentially what they do is like these GTMs, they're very, very familiar with like automated lead gen. They kind of like use these tools like Clay, etc. They also are familiar a little bit with like NA10, Make.com, automated lead gen, but nothing too crazy, right? They're still like, I would say they just have like a good amount of knowledge and they get paid a shit ton of money. So all of these are skills that GTMs have and you're going to learn them in this video, right? And it's going to be at a fraction of the cost because most of them, they use overpriced tools, but we're not going to do that. We're all about being efficient, just like the Germans. They are so efficient and punctual, right? So now let's talk about the next one. So let's say you're selling some sort of product, SaaS. Maybe you are working with a client that sells a SaaS, right? And you want to connect them with their ideal clients. Well, obviously, if they are selling a product, there's multiple personas that you want to go for. The first one is head of products, right? Because they care about the products and developing the products. Product manager. I would also think it would be the sales director. This is kind of like a person that's also handles like distribution. Distribution is kind of like just getting customers, just a fancy way to say getting customers, distribution, right? So the head of product manager, sales director. Okay, so we kind of like handle 3 people. For sales systems, generic automation, or like when you're selling a product or like a SaaS, or maybe you're connecting your ideal client to that sells a SaaS or like a subscription or like some sort of software to their ideal clients. This is kind of like the personas, okay? Now, there are multiple tools that allow you to kind of like enrich, right? By finding the right decision makers, their contact details and emails, like I said, but they are overpriced. Some of them is actually Clay. Now, the reason why I don't like Clay, it's not clay.co, clay.com. The reason why I don't like Clay is because it's very, very overrated, right? It's essentially what I like to call a Google Sheets on steroids. Essentially how it works, if you guys don't know, is that they are connected with a bunch of APIs. So you essentially just buy other subscriptions elsewhere and you have to connect your API to Clay, and it works as a kind of like a tree, and it has a bunch of like branches, and you connect your APIs there, and they essentially just allow you to have everything centralized. Now we can do like 99% of what Clay does only in Make.com, or even can build like your own Google Sheets. Like it will take you a couple hours to do it instead of like paying how much? So it's very overpriced. Like 134, actually it's more, $150 a month with 2,000 credit. I think that's overkill. I don't know, but it's just me. I think it is overkill. If you want 3,000 credits, that's like $229 a month. And the data is hit or miss. So when I first got started, I looked into Clay and I was like, I'm going to use Clay. So I looked at the pricing. And since I had the skills of like automating lead gen, automating like Make.com and NA10, I was like, this is not worth it, right? It's just not worth it. So I kind of like picked the same idea of the little maiden that said, and I'll do it myself. I'll just do it myself instead of like relying on Clay. And this is what I recommend you guys also do. And I'm going to show you guys how to do like 99% of what Clay does just using Make, right? And it's going to be very affordable, right? Because we don't want to like break the bank, but at the same time, we want to extract as much value as possible. Like I always say, you want to be affordable, but not cheap. And by the way, this main idea of I'll do it myself, I picked this from a book. It's called Po Charlie's Almanac, written by Charlie Munger. Highly recommend you guys read this book. Charlie Munger is one of my biggest mentors that actually it influenced a lot of my thinking, business strategy, business decisions, how to acquire worldly wisdom, how to live life in general, right? And he kind of like explained this idea or like the story of like the little maiden that she says, I'll do it myself. And the way he explained it is he said, if your mentors or like coaches, teachers don't have an array of a multidisciplinary approach, which means they're not just fixated in a way of fixing problems, kind of like the same like idea of to a man with a hammer, every problem pretty much looks like a nail because they only have a hammer and they only have like one way to fix a problem, right? Which is, I believe it's not the right way to live life in general because you're going to be like in a bubble And that way, you're not going to be able to like expand and acquire wisdom, acquire knowledge from multiple disciplines and see other ways to actually fix the problem, not just use one solution or like one model to fix the problem, right? And it just falls down in terms of like everything in life, right? It's not either or, it's not right or left. Like everything in life, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. And like Winston Churchill said, history over ideology. So you do not want to be subscribed to just one idea, right? Because that's a very dangerous way to live life, right? And by the way, I forgot to mention this. See this Clay software? If you guys don't know, I've worked with multiple business owners, businesses, and they would pay I would like at least $10,000 for this Clay software or like for like a Clay table, right? And when they essentially just come and hop on a call with me and I show them that there's multiple ways to do all this sort of stuff at a fraction of the cost, it became my unique value prop, and it will become your unique value prop because now you're essentially just saying to them, hey, I can do this faster, cheaper, and way better without you overpaying for software like Clay, right? And it becomes kind of like your unique value prop. And these GTMs, like I said, like they get paid thousands of dollars, like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And they also kind of like trade them to use Clay, etc. But like I said, you can do 99% of this in make.com. Okay, so let's just get right into it. I'm simply going to go to make.com and then I'm going to show you guys how to enrich or like find the contact details of a person within a company using a couple methods, okay? So I'm gonna create a scenario and then we're gonna name this our playground. So enrichment playground. There we go. And here's what we're gonna do. So first, let's talk about method one. So there's 3 methods to kind of like enrich at a fraction of the cost. We're gonna first talk about method one, which is going to be the most affordable one, which is essentially leveraging Google Search API. Now, we all know Google is the best search engine in the world, but a lot of people don't actually know how to use Google because they just search for generic stuff. But since you are an operator and you want to make a ton of money, you need to know how to use Google correctly. So there's this API, it's called Google Search API, right? And it allows you to kind of like Google automatically without you going here and type in whatever you want, okay? Now, when you Google something, obviously you're going to get results, right? But it's not about just Googling that thing. It's about having the right query, which means the right way to Google the thing, right? So if we use this API, we can manipulate the way we search. And the one that I recommend you guys use is Rapid API Google Search. So this is the one. Now this API is very interesting. It's called Real-Time Google Search API for Authentic SRP Data. Is that allows you to Google search anything you want automatically using Google's API without getting rate limited. Because if you want to do it using just the official one from Google, you're going to have to pay like a lot of money and they're also going to rate limit you. So a bunch of like very tech savvy, smart, bright engineers came in and they were like, okay, we'll do it ourselves, just like the little maiden, right? So like they build their own stuff. So we're going to use it. I'm going to show you guys how to do it, right? So this is the first one, Google Search API. It allows you to find anything. You can essentially just give Google, for example, a company name, and you can add like plus LinkedIn, and then can retrieve the LinkedIn URL of that company, right? This is how you do it. For example, if you put the domain name plus LinkedIn, you get the LinkedIn company page. You can put domain name plus LinkedIn, plus sales persona, for example, CTO, like founder, and you're going to find the exact decision maker and you get it from there, right? After that, essentially, you just have the right decision maker. So like I always say, this is kind of like a hack that I came up with last year, probably a year and a half. The best way to find a decision maker or like someone that you want to talk to on the internet is simply just Google them. Why are we spending so much money on these enrichment platforms, right? Like the data is hit or miss, right? It's going to be hit or miss. So why not just do it ourselves? So Google Search API. The next one is going to be a platform significantly more affordable than Clay, which is People Data Lab. So this is 1, this is 2, PDL. So PDL. Now I want you to imagine that PDL is kind of like a menu, right? So let's say you go to a coffee shop, you want to order like a coffee, right? And this menu, there's like a dark roast coffee, there's matcha. I don't get the hype when it comes to matcha. Trust me, like I give it so much, like I tried drinking it so many times, and I just don't get the hype. I think it's highly overrated. I'm such a like a dark coffee guy, or like a latte guy. Give me that with like a chocolate chip cookie and just forget about me, right? So let's say you come to a coffee shop and they have like this menu of a bunch of items, right? And in order for you to get that item, obviously you're gonna have to pay the money. So let's pretend this menu is PDL, okay? And they already have like these coffees already ready, or these items. Now you give them money and they give you the coffee. Well, think about it this way. PDL already has the coffee, and coffee in our case is the leads, prospects enriched with everything. They have like their own domains, they have like their emails, etc., etc. So all you have to do is simply just give them money and they give you the exact decision maker. Now, the way PDL works, now let's get a little bit technical, is that it's a lead sourcing database. See, all these enrichment platforms, low key, they are essentially a lead sourcing database in the backend, because they already have the prospects. It's not like they do some crazy stuff to find the right decision maker or like enrich. The enrichment is already there. The data and leads are already there, but they say it's enrichment because they kind of like just show you like a cool UI, like, hey, we are enriching the data for you, but in reality, it's just there, right? So a bunch of people just kind of like downloaded a bunch of like millions of leads off the internet when there was like hacks and stuff, and they essentially just like built these platforms, and the only thing that they have to do is kind of like just give you the item that's already there. So that's how it works, right? You come to this coffee shop, you give them the money, okay, here's the domain that I want, and they look in their menu if it exists, and they give you the enrichment, which is the contact details. Let me give you another example. Let's say there's a drawer, okay, and there's like the drawer, there's all like, this is where your clothes are, and every single time you come in and you ask them if there's like this specific t-shirts or like pants that you want, and they're gonna check the drawer and you're gonna be like, yeah, it exists, there we go, pay us money. Or if it doesn't exist, they're gonna be like, sorry, we don't have that exact item. So it's already there. So that's how it works under the hood, PDL. And so there's PDL, like I said, and there's also Apollo. Like, a lot of people don't actually know this, but Apollo, again, allows you to enrich. Because Apollo, again, it's a lead sourcing database. And the way you use it is using these endpoints, people search. So they have an endpoint called people search. So use the people search endpoint to find people in the Apollo database. Several filters are available to help narrow your search, right? Now, this is $49 a month. I believe People Data Labs is probably $50 or something. Yeah, but it's a lot more affordable than $150 to $229 in Clay. But like I said, we don't need all of this. We can use our Google Search API, which is kind of like the way I do it all of the time, like 99% of the time. And I'm going to show you guys how to do it now. So let me close all these tabs right now. And let's just get to make.com here. And the first thing we want to do is want to use the API. So the way we're going to use the API is we're going to go to HTTP, make our request. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to go to Google Search API. We're going to see this. So let me zoom in. So you see this Google Search Rapid API query Nike. So they give you like an example. Okay, here's an example of what your query like. Now, I already have a couple ones that I'm going to share with you guys that will handle like 100% of every case. So these are the one, enriching decision makers using Google Search API. So you're going to use these 80% of the time. So this is kind of like that covers every role of any company to get access to anybody on the damn earth, right? So getting clinical managers, getting the founder name, getting the hiring manager, getting the CSO, VP security, CTO of a company, getting the project executive or like ops manager, getting the sales title or the sales persona, getting the technical role of a company. And these are like some of the additional ones that I use within my agency, and I thought I'd share with you guys, which is like you will use it like 20% of the time. Marketing decision makers. This is going to be useful for getting the right people at agencies, SaaS tools. Let's say you want to go let's say you want to talk to like decision makers within agencies, marketing agencies, etc. So you're going to talk with VP of marketing, head of marketing, marketing director, growth lead, demand generation, decision makers when it comes to B2B fintech, right? CFOs. Let's say you all building a system. Let's say you're building a system that's going to reach VP of finance, right? Let's say you are building a system that you want to sell to product roles such as head of product, This is medical doctors for healthcare decision makers, facilities, education sector, and government public sector. So all of these like decision makers that are the right ones within a company. Okay. So for example, let's say I want to find the founder. All right. Let's pick this one. Finding the founder. We're going to copy this, simply just copy it. Paste it here, and you see this company name or domain. So here we're just gonna put the company name or domain, right? The method is gonna be, I believe it's get. Yeah, get. And now the only thing I have to do is add your headers. Copy, paste this here. There we go. Actually, this should be here. And then we're gonna paste this here. You wanna go again to header. Make sure to go to XRapid API key. This is your own API key. Everyone has their own API key once you sign up to Rapid API. And then you're going to go scroll down. You're going to copy this, paste it here. Always make sure to parse the response. Now, in order for us to actually find someone, we need like an actual person. So let's just go to Apify, and I have a couple like leads here that I believe I scraped yesterday. So I'm going to go to the last runs here. Let's pick, for example, this one. I'm going to go to storage, and I'm going to pull this data. I'm going to add another module. It's going to be Apify. So get dataset items, because I'm going to get the dataset items from Apify. Add this one here. Very simple. I'm going to put this here. This is kind of like the dataset ID. The dataset ID is where the data is. And then if I run once, obviously I'm going to get everything. Okay, so I have everything. I'm going to pretend I don't have this data. This is like a data script from Apollo. Okay, let's say I don't have the first name. I have nothing. I only have the company domain, right? Or the company name. So we can use either the company name or the company domain. For example, let's just put, we need to refresh this thing. Oh, we have to do it once again. That's fine. It's a good learning experience for you guys. Don't you guys think? Add the second header. Done. Move this space. And then let me just copy this one, add it here. And then I'm going to add the company name, which is, what is the company name? Company name. Pro Links Sports. I'm going to save and run once. I'll check this out. So now we're searching the same company, and we're trying to find the founder. So if I go here, go to data. I forgot to parse the response. Let me do it again. Done. And then let's see if you guys can see me. Yeah, you can. But just in case, I'm going to put myself here. Go to data, results. And there we go. We found the actual decision maker, which is Kenneth R. Kennedy. There we go. This is the guy. So what we've done here is we use Rapid API, Google search, by doing this exact same thing. So when you go here, check this out. So you Google search this exact person in Google. For example, let me do it manually. But nobody likes to do things manually, right? But we're automating, right? And there we go. We found him. There we go. There's the guy. Exactly the person. Now, what comes after this, right? So let's call this Rapid API Enrichment. Well, obviously now we have kind of like the first name and last name from the LinkedIn. Well, now we can just add it to AI and kind of like just get the full name. Very simple task for AI. I'm just using Azure, right? So what we can say, add GPT-4o, and I can say essentially just return the full name from, and I can just feed in the results that we got, which is title, output the full name only with no additional text. So now when I do this, here's what's going to happen. There we go. I just get the full name. Easy, right? So let's say, so by the way, you can use either the company name or the company domain. It's not either or. You're going to find yourself that when you use the company domain, it's way better sometimes because the company domain is more of like intimate for the company. Like a company would have like, let's say there's like a multiple variations of the same company, like they are very similar. There's like a company that has like a different like character and it's like a completely different one. So use the domain most of the time, but in this case, we just use the company name and it still works perfectly. So that's how you find the right decision maker. Now, obviously I can use anything here. For example, let's say I want to find the sales manager. Let me just copy this, paste it here, and then let's just put, for example, company name here, the company name. Obviously, if it's like if they don't have like a sales manager or like a VP of sales, we're still gonna go for the founder. So there we go. So Chad Walker, this is the guy that handles sales within this company that we just found here. Now let's talk about how to find their emails. Well, to find their emails, there's multiple enrichment platforms that does this for you. There's an email finder where you give it full name, first name, last name, or full name, along with the company domain or like an email. There's also Prospeo. So all of these are enrichment platforms. Obviously, there's no way to kind of like find the email of someone just manually. These platforms are extremely, extremely important. You can't really just maneuver your way into it. They're essentially, the way they do it is they kind of like do something called combinations. So for example, there's like a domain here, like let's say domain, and there's like an @ here, for example. There's an @.com. So they try first name at domain.com, first name, last name at domain.com. They keep trying that. And then they generate a bunch of like combinations or like permutations, let's say for 10 combinations, and they send them to like an SMTP server that tries to check whether this email actually exists. And the way they check that is through a handshake. So they kind of like send a request to like this SMTP server. The SMTP server checks if the email is valid by sending another request, which is a handshake. And if it exists, well, obviously, if it exists, there's a server in this email that is hosted within that server. This email is hosted within that server and it's going to reply back by saying, hey, okay, we exist. And if it exists, it's going to output valid. That's how it works, right? It's kind of like the main idea of how they work. So these platforms, like I said, are very, very important, but sometimes they could be a little bit more pricey, which is the reason why I came up with this one, because I think like you can do everything, right? You can enrich, find decision makers, but the emails is very, very important. But I came up with this platform especially for people in my community, and it's kind of like a free platform they can use every single time, unlimited, without like overpaying for like an email finder or Prospeo. But yeah, if you want to do this sort of stuff, just get an email finder, right? So this is the way you find the emails, and let me show you. So this is an email finder. Search for a person's email, domain. So this is the company domain, and this is the full name. And let's try to find the founder again. Let's put the company name, save. Oh yeah, I forgot to authenticate my account. So I need to go to an email finder and update my API key. Let's check if I'm recording. Yes, I am. I'm going to go to API, copy my API key, go back here, go to API key, and then simply just save this here. So let's check if an email finder is going to find the email. I believe they will find the email because it's the right. There we go. And then that's how we went from like a domain to like an email address. So that's how you use kind of like Google Search API to go from like a domain to find the right decision maker to find the email, right? So now let's talk about one more thing. So we found the emails, but how do we generate a copy? We only have the right decision maker and we have their email. And let's pretend we don't have anything from this Epify data set or like Apollo data set that we scraped from Epify, that we previously scraped and we just did it our own, found the right decision maker, and we found their email. Well, I'm going to show you guys a hack. Like I always say, and since I said in the beginning, you only need or require a domain to do everything. Well, from the domain or the email here, we can get access to the text scraped from their website page. We can get their case studies, value prop, whatever they are selling, and feed it to AI, and AI can generate the copy. So how do we do this? So, since we already have like the domain here, because we gave the inputs, we already have the domain. Now, we can essentially just feed it to a platform that's going to allow us to scrape the data. So the one that I recommend is Firecrawl. There's multiple ones. There's Firecrawl, there's like SERP API, there's AXA, but this one is very, very affordable. Turn websites into LLM-ready data. They couldn't explain it better. And you get like 2,000 for free, right? If I go to dashboard, I already have I believe I have 2,000 credits for free. Once you sign up, you get 2,000, which is insane. So what you want to do is you just add Firecrawl. And you want scrape a website. So you want to get the markdown. And here you're going to put the website. Okay? Once you do that, you can feed it to AI. Very simple. I'm just using Azure. Like I said, you can use any AI model. And let's say, for example, I have a couple prompts here that I'm going to use. For example, let's just use this. Let's just go to my 7-figure prompts. These are a couple documents that I share with people inside. This is the one. Let's copy this. GPT-4o. This is going to be a pretty long video, so if my camera dies, we're just going to continue without camera or just use my computer's camera, right? But I believe you guys don't mind. So generate just one variation based on the website data. So I can essentially just feed it the markdown. Congrats on keeping ProLink Sports on the storefront of golf partnerships and events. It's awesome to see your team's impact on landmark tournaments like the 3M Open and the Valspar Championships. We've helped some teams in the sports world straighten their sales systems by zeroing in and connecting with ideal partners. Sounds like you already have nailed that. Cheers to the continued success. So this is kind of like a prompt that I use. We can definitely edit this. So create a insider casual style. Keep it short. And let's add, for example, full name. And we can also say, starts with, hey, first name. No CTA. Check this out. Now it's going to be way better. Hey Kenneth, congrats on building such an incredible reputation in the golf marketing. I've heard great things about that 3M Open. Executing events at that level is no small feat. We've seen similar success helping companies connect with their ideal clients by designing sales systems that keep them talking to the right audience. So that's what I mean by a really good copy. And we just scraped it from the website here. Okay, so let's just put this here. Now let me show you how we can use People's Data Labs. Now, People's Data Labs, like I said, is really good too. They have like a database of everything. And this is like where you get your API key and the endpoint that you always want to use. Obviously, you can like play around with all these endpoints that they have, but the one that I always use is the Person Search API. Okay, this is the one. I'm going to show you guys a way to use it. I'm simply going to go to my other scenarios. And I'm going to copy kind of like a query because they have like a pretty weird, confusing API documentation. but I'm just simply gonna show you like how to do it. So I think this is the one. So enrich decision maker. Yes, this is the one. Let me just copy this, go back, unlink this, put this here. My API key here. In the API, copy, put it here. So here we're finding the director, VP, owner, etc. Obviously, sometimes PDL is not going to have the right decision maker, like I said, because if they don't have it in the menu, well, they're going to tell you, sorry, we don't have it. So I'm going to go put the company domain here, and then let's just try to see. So we found it. So that was pretty quick. So if we go to data, done. So we found it. So that's how you find it. So there we go, that's how you found it. The only thing you have to do is essentially just change in terms of like the job titles, director. So it's going to be like sales director, VP of sales, or whatever persona you want to go for from here. Okay. For example, if you want to go marketing director, just going to put marketing director. Obviously, if they don't have it, they're going to tell you we don't have it. Okay. Which is the reason why like most of the time I just use my own way. Okay. So that's how you use PDL. Now, the same thing goes for people search API from Apollo. You're just going to put the query, your API key, and you're good to go. Now, let's actually go ahead and implement the same exercise right now. Okay, why don't we do it? So now we kind of like understand how to essentially just enrich. So I'm going to keep this here as my playground. And I'm going to go to Crunchbase and I'm going to pick a random company. Or maybe I can like scrape a list maybe. I do believe I have a list here. I'm going to pretend that I have nothing. Yeah, I have like a list here. I'm going to go to runs. Let me check if I'm recording. I am. Perfect. I'm going to pick this here. I have a bunch of data here. The way I was able to get this is I went to Crunchbase and I just scraped Crunchbase using the scraper. It's called Ultimate Crunchbase Scraper. Right? I went to advanced search, went to companies, and I essentially just got a couple hundred companies here. So let me close all these tabs. Let me go here, and then the only thing I have to do is go to this storage, copy the dataset ID, simply paste it here. Run this module only. So I have this company name called LangChain. LangChain is a platform that provides open source. So when you scrape, obviously you're going to get everything. But let's say you don't have this, which is the whole purpose of enrichment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find, I'll try to find the sales manager. And let me check a few things. So last funding. So they got funding, which means I'm not going to look for the founder because at this point, they already have their own sales team, right? They got funding, they have money, and number of employees. So from 100 to 250. So 00101, 250. So 100 to 150. So definitely do not reach the founder because it's a big company. They're not going to talk to you, right? You're going to talk to someone below the founder, which is always going to be some sort of like VP of sales, sales manager. So I'm going to copy this, paste this here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed in the name. And yeah, let's check this out. Let's run everything. So domain. Oh yeah, we forgot to add the domain. Domain is websites. Let's check. So we found Darren Muffet. Who is this guy? Oh, we found him. Experienced sales leader. Isn't it the right guy? Vice President Sales. Done. Perfect. The platform for reliable agents. Now, this guy makes sense to talk to them because I want to sell them sales systems. Now, obviously, let's say I'm trying to sell them anything else. For example, let's say you want to sell them some sort of like AI automation stuff. Obviously, not going to be the person. Well, the platform for reliable agents. What do they do? Oh, this guy is like pretty intimidating. GitLab. The agent engineering platform sort of developed to ship reliable agents fast. So I would not talk to the sales manager if I'm not trying to sell sales systems, if I'm trying to sell some sort of AI automation, whatever. I mean, the possibility of you selling them just automation off the bat is close to none. They got funded $125 million. Do you really think they need like an AI agent or like NA10 make.com system, right? Let's give that some thought, right? They need something like they need a way or like a system that will automate lead gen and gets them in front of people that will freaking buy what they sell here, right? Not freaking optimizing their ops. They already have their own way to do this. So this is kind of like the idea. So you want to first get them clients and then we can worry about optimizing you guys' workflow, right? But I believe they have already figured out 125 million funding, right? So let's do this. Done. We found the email. langchain.dev. So let's read through this. Hey there, huge congrats on the 125 million Series B. Building the leading agent engineering platform is no small feat. I haven't worked with teams scaling AI workflows. I know how critical it is to align systems with dream clients, and it's clear LangChain is built to thrive those kinds of connections effortlessly. Now, since we're reaching for the right decision maker, which is a VP of sales, where we can say, create a casual insider style congratulations message for that first personal fellow operator, making a warm connection to a sales leader. Use the right jargon they use and make it tailored to their word, since they are the exact persona we are talking to. Let's check this out. Hey Darren, congrats on LangChain's 125 million series. What a testament to the demand for reliable agent engineering at scale. Seeing the traction you've built with so many top-tier teams reminds me of what a strong sales engine and ideal client alignment can unlock. Cheers to empowering and a growing ecosystem. So now it's more tailored for them. We speak their own language. They care about demand for reliable agent engineer because this is what they care about. They care about demand generation because they are the ones who are handling sales reps, getting clients for the company. So this is the exercise that we've done, right? Obviously, you can automate the hell out of this stuff by just increasing the limits in Amplify and just run the entire thing. And now we have the email, etc. You don't really need anything else. As you can see, we have everything. We have a really an extremely good copy, and no tool will be able to generate this from this small amount of data, just the website. And you might be thinking, Saad, what's the best? Is it scraping their LinkedIn website? Website is all the way because it's their unique value prop, right? Nobody cares about their headline. Sometimes they would say, well, I like dogs. Well, nobody cares. Or I got my hair transplants. You guys know the LinkedIn post that most people are posting. But this is more relevant and timely for them. You're kind of like showing up as someone who's coming here to not just chat shit, but actually make money and make the money, also you making money. So that was a pretty long video. Hopefully you guys found value in this one. I'm going to leave you this playground along with the resources. So yeah, you guys are now equipped with the skill set to get up and running yourself. As you can see, it's very simple. We just use no code. There's no coding or anything. So even if you've never used this before, never used make.com, or you don't know anything about enrichment, you're going to be pretty good to go. Okay. So hopefully you guys found value in this one. Like I always say, get out there, take action. I believe in you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. 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 Talk to you soon. Peace.